Hey, I'm Kyle Bailey. I own Front Burner Marketing. I help home service businesses win organically in the last frontier left to you, which is Google Maps. And what I'm going to be talking about today is Dry Guys Restoration. Looking at this for you guys. What I like to do is offer free tips that will help you move forward and try them out. If you like them, come back. Let's talk, see what I can do for you. So, Dry Guys Restoration, Columbia, South Carolina, water damage and mold damage and fire damage restoration company. I slice those out because those are the categories that you want to win in when you're in this business. Okay, so let's take a look at what they got going. First of all, across the board, when I look at your map grid, and this is just for two, this is mold remediation and then water damage restoration. It's not bad. You don't have enough number ones. And then once you get out to the edges, we see what we typically see is once you get a few miles away from the office, that's when everything starts to fall down. But overall, it's pretty good. A lot better than what I normally see. But there's a lot of winning left to do here. I will just say that. So the number one thing I would do is come in. The cool thing is when we come in and see a map like this, we're usually able to get you number ones across the board in a reasonable amount of time. So maybe 60 days. And what that means is every one of these pins would be at the number one position. And when you look at these pins, when you click into these, you can see who you're beating. Okay. You can see all of your competition here. And so each one of these tells that story. So in this one, which is the center of the map, that's where your office is located. That's at least where Google thinks it is. You are number one there. And all these other spots, you're number one. Then when you drop to number two, you're behind Edmondson Restoration. Then in these other kind of sadder stories, number four, once you're in the number four position, you're now off of the first page of Google Maps. And once you pass off that page, you don't get calls. It's just not, it's not going to happen. Nobody goes to the second page of Google Maps. The data's out there. You can look at it for yourself. Something like 85% of all local restoration calls are going to go through Google Map listings. Okay, they're looking for those reviews and they want to reach out and they call somebody. Now, water damage restoration or fire damage restoration more than most because they're in an emergency situation. So the transactional nature of what's going on is much higher. It's like immediate, I want somebody out here now. Once I see you've got enough reviews that you're not an axe murderer, I want to call you. I want to get you out here. Now, you're called Dry Guys. So obviously, you're going to trend more towards water damage restoration, even though you have fire listed on your website. So that's one thing to think about with positioning. When you position your website, you want to think about how that works because when you say fire damage, okay, when you say we're a fire damage restoration company, but you're called Dry Guys, you've automatically put yourself behind the eight ball with your positioning. Now, you're in South Carolina, which is a very humid climate. It's Atlantic. And so you might be in the position here where you say, we're putting fire out there, but we're mainly water and mold because of the climate. Totally viable. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. So call yourself Dry Guys because the climate tells you, much like Houston, Texas, much like all of Florida, you're in an extremely humid environment. So mold is a big problem. So that may be your positioning. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Just you want to have all this in mind. If that's the case, I probably wouldn't even put fire on the home page. Okay, so let's take a quick look and let's kind of look at what you got going. So we've already looked at the map. We can help you win on the map because we're going to get you ones across the board instead of falling off the first page like you're doing right now. Now, when we dig in a little bit, one of the first things I see is that you don't have very many pages. So Google thinks you have 10 pages. When we search the Google index search, we ask Google, hey, Google, how many website pages does this have? So here's an SEO tip. You want to have a couple of dozen pages. Now you say, I don't want that many pages. That's a complicated website. And that's because you're thinking of your website like a library. Like you're thinking of every book you have to show your customer. The reality is your customer is usually going to come in and interact with 2 to 3 pages on your website. They're going to interact with the page they find online, whichever way they find it. Either you've promoted that page, or you've selected that page on a social media campaign, or you've got it on an ad, whatever it is, they're going to come in on that page. Then, just like everybody else, okay, great, your service, great. I want to see the about section. I want to know who I'm dealing with. I want to see what they do in the community. I want to see what it is, who is it that I'm interacting with. So then I'm going to go double check your reviews. I'm probably going to bounce back out to your Google Maps listing for that. Or if you've got a reviews page on your website. So again, SEO tip, have a reviews page on your website. Feature 10 to 15 reviews that show the entire story of the services that you offer. Okay? Take those reviews off of Google, copy and paste those onto your reviews page, and tell that story and make sure it's in header tags. Make sure the review story is in the header tags. So don't just put review, put water damage restoration review. Put water damage restoration story. And if you've got particular areas that are more prone in your kind of your geo area, then highlight those. So if one particular part of the Columbia metro has a bigger problem, then you want to highlight that area. So, but you want to tell that story through the reviews, so that the reviews, the reason we look at reviews is it tells my story. If I'm going to deal with you, what can I expect? Well, I have a water damage problem, and Sandy over here had a water damage problem. Sandy hired you, and she got a great result. I'll get a great result because of Sandy. And you want to tell that story multiple places on your website, but have a dedicated reviews page. Okay. So now the problem that this is when we get into not having enough pages, your services page illustrates exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. So number one, you say don't let water damage take over. Stop water, mold, and fire damage before it's too late. Don't mix ideas. Always have one core idea you're trying to get across. People's attention spans today are far too short to mix one idea with 3 ideas, then come back down to one idea. Okay. So this is more of a content tip and a sales tip on your website. But when you're selling with content, never mix the number of ideas that you're trying to get across. They used to say in Baptist churches, tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you told them. Tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you told them. And what that means is, just like I did, I just repeated, right? So you want to say, don't let water damage take over. Your next idea you support that with needs to be about don't let water damage take over, right? Don't mix mold and fire. Put that on other pages, okay? Here's another thing I don't like to say on websites. Emphasizing the ink. I know that you went through work to incorporate. I know that as a marketing consultant. Customers don't care. They care about their house getting dried out. Okay? All right. So let's get down in here. I want to show you what's actually the big problem here. So you see water damage restoration. What's wrong with that, Kyle? Well, nothing's wrong with this. I will say, from a content layout standpoint, you never want to see this. You never want to see jumping back and forth. So that's a problem visually. You don't want that. Let's take a quick look at what you've got going in your header tags. Don't let water damage take over. Okay, so now see, your services are in H3s. You never put your services in H3s. Your service always goes in an H2 tag. H3 is for supporting what your core ideas are. What do you want people to hire? A really easy way to do this is, what do you want people to hire you for? Whatever you want them to hire you for, you put those in header tags H2. Okay, so if your page is water damage restoration, then you might have dry out services. You might have tear out and dry out services. You might have complete build back. That's more of an industry's term. So you might say remodeling after water damage. You might say drywall after water damage. Those are all things you want people to hire you for, directly connected to water damage restoration. Okay. Now, here's the real problem. If you want to understand the real problem, you got water damage restoration. Look at this: mold remediation, cleaning services, air quality, environmental control. Every single one of these needs its own page. Every service you have must have its own page. Okay, so this is content, but it's also SEO. If you mix all these ideas, Google doesn't mix all these ideas. Google doesn't know which one of these you want to go with. So you're not going to get punished, but you will get left. It's almost like being left back in school. Somebody with a clearer page is going to be illustrated over you. Okay. Now, what's cool about this is this company, you're already ranking really well on maps. You clean this up, it probably will help you out. But you need to create your pages correctly. Don't just go in there willy nilly. And judging by the way the content is, probably the business owner set all this up. And I don't mean that to be negative. You would probably look at a water damage restoration job I did and go, clearly an SEO guy did this water damage restoration. So you shouldn't feel bad about that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, interesting. We got 2 different addresses. Okay, that's never do that. Never ever put 2 addresses in your footer. I don't even know if this is a footer. Near the bottom of the page, don't do that. Also, don't have 2 phone numbers. If you've got a second phone number, have a second page. Same thing with the address, but that's the bad news. Here's the great news. If you have a second address that you have control over, let's go see where this is. Why am I talking about it when we could go look at it? That's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. We're going to go look at it now. So the whole point of this is you can actually put in a second Google location here. Okay. So let's take a look at where this is compared to your. Now, if it's right down the street, it's not going to help you that much. Oh, yeah. Here you go. So easy win. You want an easy win, put a location in here, optimize it correctly. And what you're going to end up having happen is where these guys see this location's out here. Now you got a second anchor point and you're going to win all this out here. So the thing about Columbia that's very interesting is it is a very spread out metropolis. So you got all this going on out here. And so you want to be able to win as large a radius as possible. And with 2 different points, even though they're relatively close together, those are probably 7, 8 miles apart, maybe 9, maybe. It would be nice if they were a little further apart, but you still have it. So what you get is a brand new. Out here, you're probably going to get a 15-mile radius. You'll get all this little stuff out here if you want it. I don't know how much you want this little business out here, but you'll get a bunch of this up here that you weren't getting, and all this around the lake, on the left side of the lake, on the south side of the lake. So that's another really easy win for you. So here's an easy win for local SEO. Get a second location that you can receive mail at and set up a location there. Okay? Get it as far away as possible from the other office so that you get overlapping credit, boost, help, whatever you want to call it. That gives you a lot larger footprint in your area. All right, so this is enough to concentrate on. For you guys, what I would recommend is, number 1, slice out your services so that your services are on individual pages. We can definitely do that for you if that's what you want. Get your value proposition really clear and decluttered. I would probably just leave fire damage off the homepage completely, and then look at having that on its own page. You're doing pretty well on local rankings. You could be doing better. We'll definitely get that pegged all the way for you. We always find some area that we can help a customer a lot. And if we can't, we'll tell you. I'm never going to sell somebody just to sell them. I'll just give you some free tips and you can walk away. I'm not interested in trying to claw for business that we're not actually going to be able to help the customer. I want to knock out home runs. That's what I want to do. World Series just happened. I got to use some metaphors. Yeah, so you do have let's take a quick look at this. Let's see what their reviews page looks like. Okay, so this is okay. The problem with this is it's supplied by Google's API. And what you actually want to do is break this out into stories. Huge. I can talk. I can speak English. Huge shout out to Dry Guys. Nothing there. Great job. Very professional. There's nothing there. There's not a keyword in it. What you want to do is create a section on a page. Elliot called us out because his water pipe burst in his kitchen. When we came out, we noticed that all the drywall was blah, blah, blah. We had mold, blah, blah, blah. The carpet was all ruined, blah, blah, blah. Talked with Jason. We got the insurance worked out. We did all these things. We got a new design for his new kitchen. And now this is the after. Elliot now gives you a full review. Now, what I would do is go back and say, hey, Elliot, we're featuring your job on our website. Would you speak a little bit more? I know you gave us a 5-star review, but tell us a little bit more. What was the most meaningful thing to you? Something like that. That's how you want to do your reviews. Look, this is better than nothing. This is better than nothing. But really tell the story in your reviews. It's a golden ticket. You're doing great work. Now let's actually get the benefit from that great work you've done. All right, hope that helps. Again, I'm Kyle Bailey. You can reach out to me through LinkedIn. I'm easy to find. You can also find my website, frontburnermarketing.net. Yeah, this is what we do. We help folks win. Hope this helps.